Love is a word that belongs. In fact, it should be presented as a foundational element of business. When a business leader commits to diversity and inclusion, they create leadership opportunities for all the people in their organizations. If you're only focused on making money for the owners or for yourself, I don't believe those companies are going to survive another 5 to 7 years.
This is Because People Matter, a podcast about celebrating leaders who are harnessing the gift of human differences, creating inclusion while driving success in their organizations and communities. Hosted by Dr. Helen Fagan, each episode features interviews with individuals who are leading the way. If you're ready to learn the impact becoming inclusive can have in your business, this is the podcast for you.
Welcome back, everyone. Gosh, you are in for a treat. One of my business mentors, Jay Wilkinson, is our guest today. He and I met peripherally, probably about 20 years ago, and have gotten to know each other since, I would say, TEDx Lincoln days. He did a talk the year before I did a talk, and we got to know each other more that way and have since gotten to know each other. And he has been a wonderful friend and mentor to Helen Fagan and Associates. Jay founded Firespring. He founded The Foundry, which is a nonprofit organization in Lincoln, Nebraska. He founded the Do More Good movement. And he has been involved with Launch Leadership, which develops high school leaders, for 40 years. I cannot say enough things about who Jay is as a person and why I admire him, because he lives what he's going to be talking about, which is the Do More Good movement. He lives that every single day, and every interaction I have with him is more affirming as to why who he is someone that we should be learning from and listening to, and what makes him a wonderful guest for Because People Matter. So let's listen into this conversation. Well, hello, Jay. Welcome to Because People Matter.
It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today, Ellen.
I have admired you, your work, and everything you stand for such a long time. I have considered you a friend for a long time and just have really enjoyed us getting to know each other better over the last few years. Something that you shared with me a while back was that when you and Tanya got married, you set a goal that you wanted to have a meaningful experience in 100 countries together. And you've gone to what, over 60 now, I think?
Yeah, we're somewhere in the mid 60s now.
Wow, that's awesome. What I want to know is, what have you gained and how are you as an individual leading differently as a result of these experiences?
Oh my, there are so many things. It's so hard to narrow the things that we've gained from it. I mean, the amount of just appreciation for different cultures and sensitivity to different cultures and ways of life, understanding patience and resilience when you do that much travel, a global perspective that we have that I would say we didn't have before. There's a lot of humility that comes in terms of connecting and learning from others. And one of our favorite things when we travel to other countries is to visit schools. And so we'll reach out ahead of time and arrange with like the principal of a school to go visit a remote school. Typically not, we normally don't do it in a larger city. We ask them what they need. So we'll bring them some soccer balls or whatever it might be. It's just a beautiful, beautiful lesson in gratitude and just the joy of connection and the resilience of the human spirit that we get to see. And I lead different in every way imaginable as a result of the exposure to, the different cultural learning we've had around the world.
That's fantastic. What's one of the memorable places that just kind of sticks in your mind that you go back to and visit in your mind often?
Yeah, we were in Fiji, and it was one of the places where we visited a school in a remote village. One of the teachers invited us to her home, and we had dinner with them, and the neighborhood gathered, and just connecting, the joy on the faces and the understanding of everything that they have. When you look around and compared to my neighborhood and the Western world at large, I would have thought they had so little, but yet they had everything. And it so apparent. It was one of the first times we visited with the school, and it's what really sparked our idea to continue doing that when we go to other places. In that particular village, there was a coalition of women that had been really working on learning from the West and from places how to empower the women in their community. And that's one of the things that I remember most from that trip is there were so many questions and the curiosity that came from the men in the room about, how to find a role in their communities and in everything other than the traditional roles of maybe teacher and caretaker. And we had these conversations about women in local government and in leadership roles. That was, I'll never forget it, because there were so many eyes that were opened and discussions that just led to just beautiful outcomes and new awareness for people. So that's one that stands out.
Wow. That sounds awesome. Reminds me of a couple of things. When I was working on my doctorate, I took a global public health class through UNMC. My instructor was from India, and she was from a region of India that had the most educated women in that region. And she said that one of the phenomenons that they've learned in public health is you educate a man and you've changed a man's life. You educate a woman and you have changed an entire family's trajectory and sometimes an entire community's trajectory. And that has stuck with me ever since I read that. And, and I think about my own dad and his commitment to my continued education when, everybody was telling him, you send the boys to the United States, but don't send Helen. She's a girl. And he's like, nope, whatever opportunities my sons have, my daughter will too. And so that's what you're sharing just really made me think of that. That would be a very powerful experience. And I can see why it stuck with you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really admire about you, Jay, is just your commitment to bringing good into the world. You created this movement, the Do More Good movement and conference. What brought it about? What's the purpose? What's the mission? How did it come to be for you?
Well, I would say that the origin of really the work that I began doing in the Do More Good movement happened really at a personal level for me. It was after my mother passed away, my brothers and I started having conversations. I grew up in central Nebraska in the Sandhills region, and my family settled there on both sides in the 1800s. So they've been there forever. And, it's a stoic lifestyle. There's a lot of rooted beliefs there. Growing up, I never really truly understood the impact, the influence, the outside influence that as parents we can have on children. And I didn't really have this realization until much later in life. And after my mother passed away and I was in the grieving process, I remember having a conversation with my brothers about what can we do to honor mom, and not just mom, but dad as well, who's still doing great. He's in his 80s now.
Such a great guy.
He
oh my gosh, I love your dad.
He's such an amazing human. And I was talking to my brothers, what can we do to honor mom and dad? Is there something, like the traditional things you always hear about, like maybe we can do good in life and we can make enough money someday to maybe have a park built in their memory or a hospital wing or whatever. And I kept thinking about someday. And I came to this realization one day because I have this little sign that hangs on the wall in my bathroom, in my closet. I've had it my entire adult life. I got it as a high school student when I attended this organization's workshop called Launch Leadership. Changed my life. But there was a sign on the wall that said, "We shall pass this way but once. Any good, therefore, that we can do, or any kindness we can show, let us do it now. Let us not defer or neglect it, for we shall not pass this way again." And there was one day I'm looking at this sign and the words "do it now" just kind of slapped me across the face. And I'm saying, what are we waiting for? Why am I waiting for someday? And I pinned my dad down at Thanksgiving. This would have been somewhere around 2013, and started asking him all kinds of questions about legacy. How do you want to be remembered? And he was looking at me with this really strange expression, like, why? I don't care about having a hospital wing, or none of that matters to him at all. All that he cares about is that his children and grandchildren are healthy contributors to society, live happy lives, have great relationships. It's all the personal things. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what am I like waiting for then? What can I do now that's going to make a difference? And that is really what birthed the original idea behind what the Do More Good movement became. It was around taking the thing that I was really good at, which was entrepreneurial endeavors, building companies and scaling them, and figuring out how to change the mindset of business leaders, business owners, all around the Nebraska, around the United States, and eventually around the world, to think of business not solely as a means of just making money for the owners of that company, but as a way to elevate the communities that they serve, to serve all of the stakeholders that are part of that company. And it was a several-year process of research. We interviewed literally more than 2,000 business leaders, myself and my team, asking, and these are all companies that have been featured on the best places to work lists, that are published everywhere. And we asked them, what have you done in your company? Why do you think you were listed as one of the best places to work in Vancouver or in New York City, whatever it might be? And what came out of that research was this compelling evidence that there is a better way to do business. And so the Do More Good movement was created around this mindset of transformation and abundance. And our mission is to educate, empower, and amplify companies and their leaders to use business as a force for good. And I believe that business leaders that don't understand that they have to change the way they think about business, if you're only focused on making money for the owners or for yourself, and you're not thinking about all the stakeholders, I don't believe those companies are going to survive another 5 to 7 years. I think they will be the way of the dinosaur. And I think it's a wake-up call for business leaders that it's time to transition and shift into repurposing your business to serve the communities and do well profitably. It's been proven time and time again in study after study that the most profitable companies are the companies that truly serve their stakeholders and not just solely exist to make money. So it's, you can only do well and do good if you have profit that's flowing in. There's a limited amount you can do if you don't have enough profit to leverage it in a positive way. So we're teaching business leaders how to do that.
And I have been, as a business leader, I have been blessed to be a recipient. Our team has been blessed to be recipients of the lessons that you've taught by attending the conference and by being part of the Do More Good movement. What you're describing, that purpose and mission, just totally aligns with who I have seen you personally to be, and who you have inspired me to be as a business leader. And it has been just so fun to watch it, from a periphery. And for people who don't know, FireSpring, one of the organizations you started, was listed as one of the best places to work and on the Fortune 500 list. And you all are doing incredible things, and you all have supported our team very well, and we appreciate that. So why do you think it's important for other people, other leaders, other business people who are listening to this to consider getting involved in the movement? Especially, I want to touch on especially those marginalized individuals who are thinking, but man, my whole life people have taken away from me. And now that I'm starting to gain some traction, you're asking me to think differently.
Yeah.
Help me with that.
Oh my goodness. When a business leader commits to diversity and inclusion, they create leadership opportunities for all the people in their organizations, the marginalized and others, and ensure that their voices and perspectives are represented in the decision-making processes, and companies that prioritize that are the ones that ascend and do the best, do well. And it's really all about there are so many lessons in lifting people up around you, no matter where you are on the socioeconomic ladder or in your career and in your evolution in business and in whatever your occupation is. No matter where any of us are, there is an opportunity for each and every one of us to reach down and take the hand of someone that needs a hand up, a leg up, and to help them. And I believe it's our responsibility as humans to do that. And again, it's not just for the people that by traditional standards have made it, that are doing well. The best way to advance and move forward in one's career and livelihood is to help others. And that has been proven time and time again.
Yeah. And in the research, we see that those who are happy aren't happy because of external factors. Happiness internally, that satisfaction, that gratefulness internally, and being able to give back to others elevates their ability to succeed as well. And so I really like what you're saying, because I've seen it in the research that we've done and we've seen. So now you said you're an entrepreneur and you've built multiple business and scaled them up. Why not do that? Make your businesses grow instead of focusing on do more good. Well, how are you doing that?
Yeah, my wife and I have had many conversations around this topic. My wife, by the way, is the most illuminated soul that walks this planet. She is. I learn from her every day, and one of the things that she reminds me of all the time is that as leaders and as people that are leaning into a growth mindset, rather than that of being a knower, be a learner, not a knower is something she says all the time. And she also says, with awareness, there is choice. And when we lean in to being aware of who we are, where we are, how we're doing things, and how we're processing things, it gives us the ability to make choices because we're aware of, our situation. And when we with awareness, there is choice, and with choice comes responsibility. And I think that is the key, is really understanding and leaning into the responsibility that comes with knowing and choice, and the responsibility of all humans. We're put here to walk each other and to help each other get to wherever it is that we're going. There's not one of us that's going to come out of this world unscathed. In 100 years, we will be but a faint memory in the minds of the people that are still here. And in 300 years, the memory will be so distant that, even if you ascend, if you're Elon Musk and considered the richest person in the world, in 300 years, there's going to be no difference between him and anyone else on this planet. I just think there's so much power in understanding the opportunities we all have to make impact on whatever it is that we can impact and to grow into that in the way that makes it possible for us to live out the full and expressed version of what we were put here on this planet to do. And I know that I wasn't put on the planet to make money, because I've been horrible at that my entire life. This is what we joke about. I've built companies and scaled them and done, some really, really cool things by most people, outside looking in. But I have never been much at building a big bank account, because it's meaningless to me. It means nothing. I'm not going to take any of that with me. And so what matters to me is is the social capital of again, holding others up and helping them achieve, a better version of whatever they can become. And that's really what the fundamental attributes of the Do More Good movement are about. It's about kindness and loaning someone your strength instead of reminding them of their weakness. And empathy, because when people um, feel encouraged, the disrespected feel respected, and the invisible feel seen, and that all happens through empathy and gratitude. Cicero called that the greatest of all the virtues. It turns whenever you have into enough. And then vulnerability, because we judge ourselves based on our intent, and we judge others based on the impact of their action, because we know what's in our hearts, but we don't know what's in the hearts of others. So really understanding and being vulnerable, leaning into things. And then the last fundamental attribute is love. Because leading from a place of love, I don't believe that it compromises our power. I believe it elevates it. And love is a word that belongs. In fact, it should be presented as a foundational element of business. When we did our research with those 2,000 business leaders, they did a word cloud of all the things that they said. Number one word was love. I love my job. I love the people I work with. I love the things that we do and the way we affect this. And so the people that are doing the work that is making the most impact on the world are leaning into love as an action word in business. Because oftentimes we think those love belongs in your personal relationships, not in business. I disagree.
Gosh, so much you've said that I'd love to unpack. First of all, I am a huge fan of your wife, Tanya. Yes, she is absolutely someone who lives out curiosity and wanting to know. And just when you're talking to her, it's like she's like all into you.
Yeah.
She is body, soul, everything. She's just like right there. She's amazing. So I am a huge fan of Tanya as well. So count me in that club. And then something else you said, you were talking about the idea of love in business. That really came out for me when I was working with our Rwandan international students. We had about 500 on campus at one time for over a 5-year period as a result of some work Howard Buffett had done. And, if you know the history of Rwanda as a nation, they went through this mass genocide in the 90s. I mean, this is our lifetime. Like we were adults when this was happening, right? And we watched it. And then so to have these students here, these college students here, and some of them had lost parents, some of them had lost grandparents, aunts, uncles, individuals. And as a nation to get to where they are now and how they're existing and moving forward now, it is literally nothing short of a miracle that they've been able to move from a place of genocide in the 90s to here we are 30 years later, and they are a thriving nation. And for these students, the concept of love was so strong and so powerful and so palpable in their understanding of the meaning of life and their sheer existence. And I remember having a vivid conversation with a group of about 4 of them that were in my class, my leadership and diversity class, and they were like dumbfounded by the fact that we don't use love as a foundational concept of leadership and, someone who's developing others or someone who's influencing others. And so it was yes. So I think as a country, we have a lot to learn.
Yeah, agreed.
Around that concept. And empathy is like the precursor, right? If I cannot empathize, how could I potentially move into love?
Yeah.
Right?
Well said.
That is just powerful, powerful. So, Do More Good is coming up in
Yep.
2025. Do you have dates set yet?
We do. March 6th and 7th, the ROI of Why conference will happen in Lincoln, Nebraska. We like to refer to it as the middle of everywhere out here.
That's right.
And last year we had more than 700 registrants from all 50 states and around the world attend. We have a really vibrant online community that attends our conferences because we have a really unique approach to live streaming where the physical present audience, gets to go on breaks and, to the restrooms and have snacks and interact with the other participants. And traditionally online, it's just the most boring. It's like watching paint dry when you watch a conference online, but we do it differently. We have a live host so that on the breaks, those that are attending the live stream have the ability to hear a deeper dive interview with the speakers that just came off the stage, for example. And it's been a really powerful and really impactful way to facilitate so that those that aren't able to join us in person can still have a really profound experience in the learning that's happening. And so it's been really fun, really evolving the conference over the years. We began in 2019 and we had to skip a year from COVID, but 2025, we have our next event and are really looking forward to taking things to a new level.
Oh, so exciting. Our entire team attended in person last year and actually we had one person who ended up being sick and couldn't attend in person. So she joined online and she was like, that was the most magnificent experience I've ever had in an online format.
Oh, fantastic.
So I could tell you that for those who are thinking about joining online, you will not miss out if you want to join online. Of course, Lincoln, Nebraska is a beautiful community and we'd love to have people come and join us in Lincoln, Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to attending again and supporting the conference. Now, you're doing something where you're creating this community, Do More Good community. So if a business leader or an individual organization wants to connect and become a member of the Do More Good community, would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. There are really two different ways that someone can plug in and engage and help support the work that we do through the Do More Good movement. One of them is to become a partner. It's very simple. You just go to domoregood.com. There's information right there on the front page about becoming a partner to the movement. And it's a $500 commitment that renews annually. It makes it possible for any business or organization to support the work that we do with Do More Good and become a partner to the movement. And it also gives an individual in that organization the ability to engage in whatever level they choose to in our various roundtable topics and our discussions. We have thought leaders that would blow people's mind lined up over the next year. Jacqueline Lindsay, the founder of kindness.org. She's going to be speaking at ROI of Y 2025 as well. A dear friend and just an amazing work that she does. She's actually created curriculum that is now used in high school and grade school classes all around the United States.
I love it.
Kindness. And Robert Blackwell Jr., who actually, when President Obama, before he was president, when he was a young aspiring politician, he went to some people in his neighborhood and said he was interested in getting involved as a community organizer. And the person that hosted a little event in his home just around the corner from where Barack and Michelle were living at the time is Robert Blackwell Jr. And Robert will also be speaking at ROI of Y 2025.
Nice.
And he's going to be facilitating one of our roundtables upcoming here in a few months. And then Christopher Marquis, who's a professor at Cambridge. He taught at Harvard for 10 years, at Cornell. One of the renowned world experts on social entrepreneurship is also going to be at our next conference. So we have these thought leaders, and as a partner, you can engage in really intimate conversation with these thought leaders and learn from them in kind of a behind the scenes way. So it's a really powerful way to connect and engage.
I love that. It's so good. We have gained a lot from our involvement with Do More Good. And as as a organization that is helping develop leaders who think through the lens of inclusion. Um, in our research that we've done, inclusive leaders have attributes that really set them apart beyond just the commitment to diversity. They're individuals who are not scared to challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
They are individuals who have developed this keen sense of authenticity about who they are. And so they're able to process challenging situations from both they can balance it both morally and based on the concept of who is losing if I'm not including them. And so some really key things came out in our research. And so we're developing these leaders in that area. And what we see, what I've experienced with Do More Good is so many individuals who are involved with Do More Good tend to lean towards that, that innately, their ethos tends to lean towards that inclusion mindset. And so I think if people are interested in, continuing their growth, that the Do More Good is a great place for that.
The thing that I love about the community is, there's so much talk and discussion around inclusion being about fairness and equity, and it's way more than that. It's about building trust and psychological safety, and creating safe spaces and encouraging the diverse ideas creates this incredible creativity and innovation and problem solving.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't innovate if we can't make a mistake, right? And we can't make a mistake if psychological safety doesn't exist, right? If I'm afraid that my boss is going to shut me down if I make a mistake, I don't feel safe. And, it was the whole people leaving jobs post-COVID and all that. It had a lot to do with psychological safety. And that's why it's become a huge topic of discussion in the workplace and I often say that, COVID shifted our culture. What it did was it took us from we're out, we're about, we're with each other to becoming this protecting oneself culture. Then coming out of that to coming back out and being was a level of vulnerability, right? And so when we think about what happened in the work environment with that, all of a sudden we were forced to go home and it was okay. Now we're forced to come back and it's not okay to be at home. And so we have to think about work differently if we want to continue. Like you said, 5 to 7 years from now, will your business exist? Well, I think it will exist if you're willing to adapt and change to what's required and what we're seeing. And, this generation, more than any other generation in my experience, my 6 decades of life on this planet, this generation that we have right now, I see more so than any that are becoming adults, are wanting the ability to voice their opinion, to be heard, to be valued, to be respected for that authentic person that they are, and to be seen for that authentic person. And they want to see that in their leaders. There's none of that command and control, at least in the spaces that I'm in, where that seems to be, that doesn't thrive anymore. So
sure doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So you did a TED Talk that kind of went viral. I know that's one place people can learn more about you because that's, you talked about organizational culture and how to create a culture. But tell our audience, how can they learn more about you, your company? Where can they follow you? What are some, places that they can find information?
Well, no question. The most important place is just at domoregood.com, which is the home base for the Do More Good movement and the work that we're doing to really help elevate the understanding that business should and can be a force for good in the world. And there are several places there where you can find more information about the work that I've done and continue to do. what's most important to me is that people are focused on just understanding how they can use business to do more good in the world, because I truly believe that the economic empowerment and the equity that will come from business rising up and going back to its Main Street roots, when business used to be about giving back to the neighborhoods and the communities that they serve, and somehow, somewhere along the way, we lost our path. And if it was Milton Friedman back in the day when he was famous for saying that the only purpose of business should be to make money for its shareholders or whatever, there's no question that there's a massive shift happening. I don't do a lot of personal stuff online because I just feel uncomfortable and awkward whenever things are made about me. So if you go to domoregood.com and plug in there, there's so much I think that you can find about how you can learn from the community and you can contribute to the community that we're building.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for being here. And we're excited to join you and do more good together.
Thank you, Helen. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
This has been Because People Matter, a podcast about celebrating leaders who are harnessing the gift of human differences, creating inclusion while driving success in their organizations and communities. You can find links to any resources mentioned in today's show notes. Because People Matter is brought to you by Helen Fagan and Associates. We are changing the world one inclusive leader at a time. Go to helenfagan.com to learn more about what we can do for your organization. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Thank you for listening.